I am a narcissist's worst nightmare. At this point, they don't want to fuck with me. Reptilians do not exist. Let's not confuse these weirdos mixing DNAs and cloning what's already been created. Let's not mix that with these so-called reptilians that could physically shapeshift right before your eyes and become something else. I think that that is more of a sci-fi fiction part of the brain that is telling people that. But I want to bring you some information real quick, and then you tell me what you think, because my spiritual antlers are like ding 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 ding. Like, I gotta speak about this and detect what's really going on and then bring it to y'all. Now, as the spiritual detective that I am, and like the spiritual geek, what we gotta know is the reptilian brain is the oldest part of the human brain, which means it is responsible for the basic instinctual and psychological functions of our brain, right? Okay, it works together with the brain stem and the basal ganglia, okay? Now, the reptilian part of our brain is responsible for our survival instincts, which means it's responsible for the fight, flight, or freeze mode. It's also responsible for our breathing, our heart rate, our temperature, our regulation, our digestion. Stick with me because I'm going somewhere with this. The reptilian brain is also responsible for how we survive. So whether we are territorial, whether we are dominating and controlling, whether we or how we mate, okay, is also responsible for our habits and realistic or ritualistic behaviors. So that's the routines, that's the repetition, okay, that's aggression, that's also our defensive behaviors, our raw emotions. The reptilian brain is focused on our instincts, our survival, and our safety. Now, if we go by that definition, we are all reptilians, and we all have the ability to shapeshift, not into some lizard being back into human form. No, we all have the ability to manipulate time and space. Now, if your reptilian brain was to become infected with a psychic virus or a mind parasite, which we all have been subject to due to trauma and abuse, that means that we have all fell victim to becoming and morphing into our animalistic versions of ourselves, our survival versions of ourselves, our selfish and greed versions of ourselves, with the desire to control and to consume others around us and deplete ourselves ultimately. If your reptilian brain is infected with a mind virus, it directly manipulates the mind and spirit of that targeted individual. The reptilian brain, with its focus on survival instincts, territorial behaviors, and habit-driven behaviors, is particularly vulnerable to manipulate by way of the Wendigo spirit, the same malevolent force that our ancestors, the native Cree people, were describing. The Wendigo spirit directly manipulates our reptilian, the oldest part of our brain, and has been doing this since the beginning of time, exploiting our reptilian brain by way of keeping us in a state of mind of fear. Think about society. Think about, politics. Think about on the job. Think about in relationships. Think about in a family dynamic. Every possible dynamic you could possibly think of that we all experience as a collective. Okay? It amplifies the fear and scarcity mindset. There's not enough for me. I need to survive. I'm turned into a wild wildebeest trying to survive. I'm willing to eat people literally and psychologically to get this force that I feel like I don't have within myself. That's the manipulation of the Wendigo spirit, which means there's no limit. That means that there's no limit to the extent that this malevolent force will go. And we can't just keep naming it this name, that name, narcissism, sociopath, psychopath, schizophrenic. No, it's deeper than that. It is literally a force that will morph into whatever it needs to suppress a collective of people and to suppress a specific energy, which is the divine feminine energy, all together at once. It hijacks the reptilian brain and leave us to believe that we have power based off materialism and dominance, control dynamics, competing with each other, winner takes it all mindsets. I'm better than you because I got this and you don't. Constant state of comparing ourselves to one another. That is a part of the manipulation. That is a part of this malevolent force as well. What type of habits we repeat through social media, through media itself, the propaganda continuously repeating fear-based content and messages to divide and conquer. That is the malevolence. That is the vindictiveness of this malevolent force. It encourages habitual, unconscious behaviors like overindulging, overconsumption, and blind conformity. So the ultimate characteristics of the Wendigo spirit, the malevolent force, this shape-shifting force that has the ability to hijack the reptilian minds of our brain, which is how we function in this 3D realm. It wants to keep you in a state of constant fear and need to survive. So we as a people will approach other people with that same mentality and desire to divide and conquer and survive in my way, dominate, control, encouraging habitual toxic behaviors, has the ability to put people into a state of mind of numbness, totally disarming their ability to critically think. This is why people can't critically think, because their reptilian brains have been hijacked and they don't question nothing because they don't have the ability to critically think, because they have become a slave